Okay, here's the Sukuna experience in a nutshell. Chapter 234, Gojo holds his own against Sukuna, Mahoraga, and Agito. Kusakabe then hits us with the Sukuna still has an ace up his sleeve. Chapter 236, Sukuna is portrayed as the crippled old man that he is thanks to Gojo's unlimited purple, but then Gojo hits us with the Sukuna couldn't even give it his all. Chapter 252, Maki destroys Sukuna's heart after being cooked by the Yuji Yuta team-up. But of course, Arame then hits us with the stinky statement of, my glorious daddy Sukuna is yet to go all out. So we sat there every single week like absolute bums, waiting for the moment that Sukuna finally went all out. And just when it looked like we actually might see it, Gege hits us with the 5 chapters left warning, and the rest is history. Now, the whole Sukuna is yet to go all out statements have many different, interpretations, I guess. Obviously, everybody, including myself, thinks that their interpretation is correct, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm simply going to show you what Jujutsu Kaisen would look like if Sukuna put in 110% effort into every single fight. Basically, it's a what if Sukuna was permanently bloodlusted. So, as always, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's just jump straight into it. Right then, let's start off with how Gojo versus Sukuna with the 10 shadows would go down if Sukuna didn't hold back. Which I know is about to start a comment war over whether Sukuna needed Mahoraga or not, so I've decided to find a very easy solution to all of this. Regardless of whether Sukuna needed Mahoraga to beat Gojo or not, he did need to escape from Yuji, who was suppressing him, and he was showing interest in Megami's technique long before seeing what Gojo could really do. Therefore, it's safe to say that Sukuna would still take over Megami's body for the purpose of escaping Yuji and getting to play with a new toy. The only difference in this version of the fight is that Sukuna won't be saving the Heian form and Kamatoke for a speedy post-Gojo recovery. Hell nah, bro is either going into that fight in his true form or he's gonna use it way earlier on at a much better moment. For example, he might transform instead of healing his body with RCT so that he can focus on recovering his curse technique and then not ever get caught in Gojo's infinite void, meaning Gojo's brain would then turn to mush and Sukuna would end things by trapping our blue-eyed king inside of Malevolent Shrine. People think that Gojo versus Megane or Gojo versus Heian Sukuna is unfair, and now imagine a fight where Gojo has to face a Heian form Sukuna with Kamatoke and the 10 Shadows technique. And yes, Sukuna would be able to use Megami's technique even if he transforms, because it is explicitly stated that the reason he lost it is due to Gojo destroying Mahoraga with unlimited hollow purple. Argue with the wall. Now, Mahoraga might not even need to adapt to infinity for Sukuna to win, because as soon as Gojo loses the first domain clash, he will be burnt out of his technique with nowhere to run. And this means he's a sitting duck, which Sukuna can then blast a Kingdom Come with Kamatoke. It's hard to say how much damage this would actually do because it has like 0 scaling, but come on, do we really think Sukuna was walking around the Heian era with a fodder curse tool? No, so it would definitely mess Gojo up at least a fair bit. Not to mention the age-old argument that Sukuna literally only needs to be durable enough to withstand a second more of Gojo's punishment before Infinite Void then completely fails and Sukuna can trap him in Malevolent Shrine consequence-free. I know lots of people don't like that argument, and by don't like, I mean they pretend they just haven't heard it and then keep on saying stuff like,
oh, but you know, Gojo would destroy Sukuna without Mahoraga.
But the reality is that's how it would go down if Sukuna just went straight into his Heian form and then put all of his effort into just killing Gojo then and there. Hyuga is still completely off the table though, I don't care. I don't understand how so many people can really argue he could have used Hyuga when Gege dedicated an entire page to clarifying that it wasn't an option. Just accept it. I also think that if Gojo played it differently and was out of character, then he has many ways of actually winning that fight against Sukuna, even in his Heian form. But the fact is, Gojo chose to fight the way he did because that's what he wanted, and as a result, Sukuna was always going to win because when it comes to a head-on encounter, Ryomen Sukuna is just that guy, especially when domains are in play. So I'm very sorry, Gojo fans, it really does pain me to say it, but if Sukuna utilized everything in his power to kill Gojo as fast as possible, then Gojo has absolutely no chance in hell of surviving. End of story, moving on. Anyway, the most interesting thing to talk about in this video isn't even Gojo versus Sukuna, but rather Sukuna versus the Anti-Sukuna Squad, because that's when Sukuna is shown holding back and toying with his food the most. Now obviously, if we assume he loaded for Gojo, then there's no real conversation and the video just ends, because he would still be at full strength and then everybody would just get erased from reality by Sukuna's spiritual pressure alone. So in order to make this fun, let's continue with the assumption that Gojo versus Sukuna plays out the exact same way it does in the canon material, and Sukuna transforms into his Heian form when he waffles the shit out of Kashimo. God, I love that panel. Oh, hold that, Kashimo, you little... Anyway, it's only after this point that he'll actually start trying, but let's bear in mind that his actual RCT and attack output is Miwa level right now. Okay, it's not that bad, but you get the point. It's just, like, his body has healed from transforming, but nothing else. He's still been beaten all to hell by Gojo. Yuji and Higuruma will probably still successfully remove Kamatoke from play, because violence is forbidden in Higuruma's domain, and the 10 Shadows will still be gone thanks to the Joe. After that happens, though, yeah, like, good luck, guys. I'm not gonna lie, you're gonna need it. Kusakabe GPT lets us know that even at Sukuna's current output, a close-range dismantle, cleave, or a world-cutting slash would be fatal. What Kusakabe really meant by that, though, is that these attacks would be fatal to anybody below special grade, because Yuta, Yuji, and Maki are all shown taking dismantles and cleaves at many points during the raid, including times when Sukuna's output increases a bit. You know, it's just a real shame Kashimo didn't have the same level of durability, but whatever. Anyway, this means that when Ino and Chozo close in on Sukuna early in the fight, Sukuna is not letting them off as easy as he did. Ino will 100% die right then and there. Chozo might actually still survive, since Sukuna did seem to think he actually killed him by donutting him, but who knows, maybe he'll just put him straight through the shredder instead. And then instead of playing with Higuruma, he's just gonna run around and do to everybody what he did to Chozo. Higuruma, Kusakabe, Ino, Chozo, and even maybe Yuji will all die right then and there. Which means when Yuta pulls up, he's gonna have to throw hands with Sukuna alone. Now, the first part of the fight will go much the same way, and Yuta will trap Sukuna in his domain. I think Rika and Yuta will genuinely actually put some hands on Sukuna, but with no Yuji to break him down, it's very likely that a cleave would prove fatal to Yuta, and there is no way in hell he's ever getting that Jacob's Ladder off. The only saving grace for Yuta here is that I still don't think Sukuna will have the ability to exercise Rika, so once the domain collapses and Maki steps in, Rika will be able to get Yuta to Wee Wee and then back to HQ in preparation for the body swap. Maki probably won't even land her heart-striking sneak attack though, because Sukuna won't be so desperate that he falls for something like that, and then she might even be able to handle Sukuna for a minute, maybe 2 minutes if we're lucky, but with his current output steadily recovering, he's going to make very quick work of her, let's be real. The only thing that actually might work out in the Anti-Sukuna Squad's favor here is that without him being hella interested in proving something to Maki, he might not ever land a Black Flash. Killing everyone too quickly could actually mean that he won't enter the zone when he gets excited, but you could also argue that him being locked in and wanting to kill everybody quickly means that he's very locked in and will hit a Black Flash and then recover his domain. I don't know, you decide, I don't really care. Now, with no Maki, Ino, and Kusakabe to stall Sukuna a bit longer, the only hope left before he makes it to HQ is, I can't believe I'm about to say this. Our only hope at this point is Miguel and LaRue. LaRue is gonna die because, like, Sukuna's output is nearly restored and he's just gonna get shredded. Miguel might actually be able to stall Sukuna out for a few minutes though, since he can easily dodge slashes and take a serious beating as he showed against Gojo. I mean, taking no real damage from blue punches might mean that he can survive a contact cleave, but he will eventually get worn down or even slammed by a Fuga since he'll be in a 1v1. Big up Miguel though, he's genuinely gonna be doing the most against Sukuna with the exception of Yuta and Rika. I don't know whether that's a good or bad thing, it's kind of weird, I don't know why Gege... Do you know what, I'm just gonna drop it, let's move on. Okay, this is where things start to get kind of interesting. So, before Sukuna can make it to HQ, there are still two big problems that he has to get through first. After his bloodlusted rampage, Sukuna will find that there is still a massively powerful presence nearby. And so, with the intention of leaving no survivors, Sukuna will give Arame the order to stand down and then come face to face with the restless gambler himself, Kinji Hakari. With Hakari already being in jackpot from fighting Arame, Sukuna will soon learn that his slashes are going to prove useless here. In fact, Hakari's aggressive fighting style and automatic reverse curse technique might actually piss Sukuna off enough to cause a Black Flash. And through the power of Black Flash, Sukuna will then recover an improvised version of his domain expansion. At that moment, Hakari's jackpot will end, and he will put his hands together in preparation to enter a domain clash with the King of Curses himself. Due to the improvised nature of his domain and the advantages Hakari gains in a tug-of-war, the sure hit will cancel out. After a few mere seconds of clashing though, Hakari's barrier will begin to break from the outside, just like Gojo's did. However, the only thing Sukuna had not accounted for in this fight was that when it came to a contest of luck, there was no trumping Hakari. So right as his barrier shattered, Hakari yet again landed an emergency jackpot. With even Malevolent Shrine slashes not being enough to kill Hakari, Sukuna began preparations to unleash Fuga and reduce Hakari to ash. However, while Sukuna began charging the flames, Hakari took the opportunity to try and make it out of Malevolent Shrine's range. But it was too late. fight. Right as he reached the edge of the barrier, Sukuna would light up the entire domain with a massive thermobaric explosion. Strangely though, Sukuna still sensed Hakari's presence, and as the dust settled, he sees the outline of Hakari walking slowly towards him. But this time, he's not alone. With Hakari being so close to escaping the domain, our lord and savior Aoi Todo managed to clap him to safety. Which of course means that Sukuna will be stalled for even longer at the hands of the most unlikely duo that could possibly come out of Jujutsu Kaisen, Aoi Todo and Kinji Hakari. And it's an unlikely duo because Hakari never actually has any on-screen fighting to begin with, so how the hell do you expect him to team up with anyone? Anyway, Hakari can keep up his aggressive fighting style, and Todo can then just play it safe in order to stall Sukuna out for as long as possible. But Malevolent Shrine would inevitably return once Sukuna's technique replenishes, meaning Todo and Hakari are pretty much cooked. They're like literally cooked. They're gonna get cooked by Furnace, it's just a fact. Fortunately for them though, they would manage to waste enough time for a new opponent to enter the battlefield. Yuta Okotsu, inhabiting the body of Satoru Gojo, would arrive on the scene. He would no-diff Arame as they tried to stop him, and then enter a domain clash with the King of Curses. Now, as awesome as all of this sounds, he will still fall flat on his face, and Sukuna will then just kill everybody anyway. The end. Actually, it's not really the end, because even though Sukuna successfully obliterated every sorcerer around, I still think he's probably going to die anyway. And that's because he will inevitably summon Kenjaku's merger and finally be faced with a force/entity far beyond anything the world has ever seen before. And I genuinely think he would just straight up low-diff die to the merger as soon as he tries to fight it. So no matter which way you look at it, no matter how hard Sukuna tries, he will just die by the end of Jujutsu Kaisen's story. Cry about it, I really don't know what to say. Anyway, moving on. Okay, in case anybody actually cares, here's what would happen if Sukuna went all out in any of his earlier fights. Basically, he would just kill everybody on sight, which means Mahito, Jogo, Yorozu, and Ryu will all get instantly deleted from existence. Okay, to be fair, Ryu got instantly deleted anyway, but you get the point, there's really not much to discuss about this. However, there is one fight Sukuna takes part in during the Shibuya incident that could actually play out very differently if he stopped toying around and actually locked in. And that fight is 15 Finger Sukuna versus Mahoraga. You see, it's the fact that Sukuna took the time to play around with Mahoraga that helped him figure out his adaptation ability. But by jumping straight into it, he runs the risk of actually remaining completely unaware of that fact. Even a single dismantle or cleave used before he pops his domain will mean that Mahoraga cannot be killed by a normal Malevolent Shrine. Now, assuming Sukuna opens his domain as soon as he sees that normal dismantles aren't enough, there are two possible outcomes. Outcome 1, Sukuna locks in and gives Mummy Mahoraga the Benimaru treatment as soon as possible, and outcome 2, Malevolent Shrine's Cleave reduces a partially adapted Mahoraga to dust, just for Sukuna to then close his domain and realize that said dust is slowly putting himself back together again. Now, all things considered, this doesn't really matter, because a technical Sukuna can definitely survive Mahoraga for the 5 minutes it takes to get his domain back, so that he can then finally shove a Fuga up that Mahorectum. But there is an alternate timeline where Sukuna's normal dismantle fails, so he pops a regular 1v1 Fuga like he did against Jogo, just for Mahoraga to survive and then be fully adapted to everything in Sukuna's entire kit. And unless Sukuna has a secret anti-Raga technique from the Heian era, he will just straight up lose. It's very unlikely, but it's a possible scenario, especially if he's actually trying to rush through the fight instead of playing around. I don't know, I just kind of find the possibility of him losing to Mahoraga by trying harder really funny. It's like when you get tilted playing a video game and then you just start playing worse. Anyway, that does it for my what if Sukuna stopped around and actually locked in video, which strangely just ended up becoming a what if Sukuna fought Hakari video, but whatever. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, feel free to join the Discord and become a member, and follow me on Twitter, links below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in a bit.